Senior Living Today, brought to you by these fine sponsors: Wires Inc., First Class Realty, Triangle East, and Ward Specialty Pharmacy.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Senior Living Today. Folks, do you feel like we've done this once or twice before? And I take it you're looking to my left, camera right. There's somebody else sitting here. We're going to get to her in just a minute. Folks, we can't thank you enough for calling in this week. We changed the topic as Devan, as we talked about, and we're going to get to that very shortly here. But before we even get into it, I know we have a guest here tonight, but Devan, who is our sponsors?
So, our sponsors, we're going to kick it off with Ward Specialty Pharmacy. They specialize in compounding pharmacy. Patrick Ignacio is the head out there, and he is fantastic all around. Very just wise. They have just all the different things. Even if you have pharmacy, they're a good person to call because they have a lot of different things that they can offer to you.
So he could actually give some suggestions.
He could. Even
to what your drugs or what you may have currently taking to what he could do as a compounding pharmacy.
Very knowledgeable. We also have Wires Inc. Brian West is out there, and they can jazz up anything. The finest things on the cars that are out there now, they can add them to your car. So they have just great skill all around, can jazz up your car.
And who we're going to talk about in just a minute is Mr. Braswell. Of course, he's not sitting here, but doesn't he always say, from my $800 truck to my $80,000 truck, Brian can take care of it. Go right ahead, dear.
Exactly. And last but not least, we have Brett Hill with First Class Real Estate and Triangle East. And the real estate market, I don't have to tell you, is very hot right now. Whether you're buying or selling, it's not staying on the market long.
And you're actually buying now.
Woo, we are buying. And I went to a presentation with Brett Hill last week and realized that we need to be on top of it. So.
He is great at what he does, whether it's commercial or what we'd say real estate in the residential district where
Correct.
You're talking about right now.
That is what we're looking for.
Folks, last time, I think in January, we talked about change, whether that be the wardrobe, food, mental, change of life. We came into February. We started talking about the individual person, the seniors that we talk to every week. First, before we get started, we want to send a shout out to Bob and, of course, Miss Ann and the fine folks up in Virginia that are watching us. Yes, we're broadcasting to 17 counties, but now we want to take a little side note. Again, I've been picking on Miss Devan. Yes, I have, and I'm so blessed to have her here tonight. We are from Statewide. She's going to tell you a little something about her. But we want you to keep Mr. Braswell, Cheryl. He's just a tad bit under the weather. Everything's fine. He will be back here next week. But we always like to reach out to the people that do what? Care about us. And you've called and inquired, so we wanted you to know. Keep him in your prayers. Everything is good. He'll be back here next week. But gracious, now we need to shine the light. The camera needs to shift over here. Devan, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do at Statewide.
Well, normally when I give a presentation, a red carpet has been rolled out or there's a band, so I'm operating a little bit outside of my element.
I understand.
But, I have been part-time with Statewide since late September of last year, started doing some part-time work, but went full-time at the end of December, and have been full-time ever since. I like to say I'm the Jill of all trades at Statewide. I handle client relations, social media, web design, pretty much anything and everything that is requested. I try to make sure it's taken care of. I coordinate all of our calendars.
She would even be the one, not cutting across her, but it's very important. She would be the one that when you walk in the door, you meet her smiling face, and she takes care of you. Such a professional, and I mean that from the greatest all. Anything else you'd like to add before we get started?
That's what I try to do. I try to make sure you have the best experience from start to finish with us. So.
We're so blessed to have you statewide, let alone here at Senior Living Today. Folks, we talked about last week when we had, who was on with us last week?
Last week we had Caroline Crawford, who's a lawyer, and she talked about wills. And while that isn't always a topic that we love to discuss, she brought great wisdom to it.
Amen.
She really just enlightened us on a lot of different aspects of a will, things that maybe you had or had not thought about. And so, great conversation all around.
Oh, it was. And having her here kind of just led to where we are here this week, let alone getting started for next week. This week is life insurance. Folks, it's not always a topic. You're sitting there tonight saying, oh my gracious, they're going to talk about life insurance, how boring. totally agree. You won't hear us say either thing, but we had a couple of people that stopped by and asked questions. We've had some call in here to the TV station, but we had one question. And Devan, I think, has got 6 or 7 for me here tonight, but I'm going to jump into what is the first rule of insurance? Don't run the risk of being unprotected. You noticed I put on my glasses. I don't want to miss anything here tonight with life insurance because I am sure, and you'll hear us touch on this, there's some in your closet that you haven't touched on. You haven't looked at. You've been paying on these things for probably 10 to 12 years and maybe not even pulled them out. You take for granted that they're there. Devan, let's jump in the middle of it. What type of questions did you get through phone calls, questions that have come into the office? Let's jump into some things here and let me see if we can answer some of them and bring you some, I guess, definitive answers on why, what, and when. Go ahead, Devan.
Well, we've definitely had a lot of questions, whether it be when we meet with clients one-on-one or when they call in and have different policies that they've already set up. So we've gathered a couple just to kind of touch on those tonight, since this month we're focusing on money and finance and really connecting with the individual themselves. So I think one of the big one is, why would you even buy life insurance?
It's a great question. And when people come into the office and they say, how much do I need? What is this? What is that? 2 people that you may know, Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman. They're great financial wizards. They know a lot about what we're talking about here. And I'm going to put my glasses on because I want to read a quote from Dave Ramsey that goes right to your living room. Dave Ramsey, financial guru, says, term is the simplest and purest form of life insurance, a much better value for your money. So why would we want, as your question states, why do we want to buy life insurance? Folks, we don't want to leave something from behind. What I mean by that is we decease and we leave a burden on our family. And that could be our spouse, our children, it could be anyone. And you don't need a lot of insurance. We have questions that are going to pertain to who, what, and where, and how much we should purchase. But the question is, do we need it? In the beginning, and I'll make this a short answer, when we're young, just getting married, maybe just starting a family, it's just like a company. You have kids, we're buying houses, we get in debt. If something happens, that's the time early on that we're looking at purchasing life insurance. It takes care of that responsibility. It alleviates the burden. It alleviates that time of, stress when something unforeseen happens. And you can tell I'm picking my words tonight because this is a delicate topic. But as we hit our 57, 60, 65, and 70, do we really need life insurance from that standpoint? Susie said, and Dave Ramsey, we should be living off of, yes, I know, Social Security doesn't pay a lot. Maybe our investments, our pension, whatever we've done all of our years to acquire to where we are today. But that's one of the reasons, there are many, but we want to touch on it lightly. We want you to come in the office and actually ask these real personal questions behind closed doors to people like Cheryl Braswell, myself, even with Devan taking on what her responsibilities are. Devan, is there anything else that they've asked about, not alone why, but what, where? What else do you have for me?
Well, a question that we get a lot is, I think we all hope that we'll live forever and
Amen.
not really ever need life insurance or wills, but we just don't live in that world. So how soon should you buy it? At what age should you get life insurance?
Okay.
How does that play a factor?
Folks, I'd go back to even where I started in on that answer with the first question. Why should we buy it? If we're young and we have a family, that's where all of our responsibilities are. Devan, like yourself. Right. We have something called DINKs. I know it's kind of a funny word. You started laughing when I brought that up today. Double income, no kids. So I think that might be Devan. Double income in her household, but no children yet. And what does that simply mean? That we have responsibilities to our spouse. We have responsibilities once children come in. And so the time to buy, yes, definitive would be great when I'm young and I'm going through all of this. You heard me speak about Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey. Do we need a lot of insurance going into our 60s, 65, and 70s? What we read and what we've seen in the company, no. And that leads us to probably one of the next questions. Well, what if I have life insurance and I haven't touched it in 10, 15 years?
That was actually my next question, so that works out perfect.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I'll go ahead and jump right into it. Gosh, time is flying. We're trying to crunch this down for you, but let's say you do. Devan, let's say that you decided, let's pick on you and Jeremy, her husband, of course, and you purchased life insurance. Jeremy was your beneficiary. He was yours. Okay? Children come along. These contracts or life insurance policies have been in the closet for 15, 20 years, and you and Jeremy have been paying premiums, and I'm sure you can relate to where I'm sitting. I hope you're sitting there having dinner listening to all this. But I'm sure in your closet somewhere, whether it be a guaranteed issue, a final expense policy, maybe a variable, maybe, let's see, what else we can do? Whole life. We can do term. But you've got some policy sitting in your closet, in your dresser, in your safe, that I'll bet you a nickel you really haven't looked at in the last 4 or 5 years. What's our telephone number at Statewide, Devan?
It's 252-316-8166.
8166. Folks, we want you to call the office. It's called an insurance review. You don't want to buy anything, don't want to sell anything. What you want to look at is what you currently have. And how can you do what, Devan? Not pay any more money for it. One, possibly we get paid up insurance. We have seen 87 to 90%. That's almost 1 out of 10 of the people that have come in the office. That's why we picked this topic, that have brought their policies, Devan, into the office and said, what do I do with these? And throw 3 and 4 and 5 life insurance policies on the table. Mr. Braswell is excellent at this. He will take a look at the policies. We have been able to help 9 out of 10 either reduce paid up insurance, get more insurance for less premium. Well, Joey, why is that? Because insurance, folks, has come down. The premiums, Devan, have come down, especially in your age bracket.
Right.
If the insurance has come down, well, Joey, what does that mean? That means that you can do more for your family with less. And Cheryl is a good one to talk to about that. Devan, next question. What do we have?
Well, and just to touch on that really quickly, also, you know, insurance is an ever-changing thing, period.
Absolutely.
While, like we talked about during Medicare open enrollment, that is an ever-changing thing as well. So it's always good to give us a call. And the life insurance review doesn't cost you a dime. We do that out of just the kindness of our heart because we have been able to benefit that many people because you just don't know what's out there. And so we do that free of charge. It gives us an opportunity to really see what you have and present you with the best options.
Folks, because of this TV show, Statewide has become a staple name in a lot of the homes in Nash County, Edgecombe, Wilson, and they trust us for what we do. When this topic came across our table, we knew somebody was not doing it. Somebody was not taking the time to look at what you currently have with the changes. Gracious, Devan, I don't need to tell everybody the changes that are happening every day in America, in our lives, in each and every event. So you know life insurance with the corporations that sponsor us and we sell it from would actually be changing, and it would be to your benefit to come in and take a look at what you have. Devan, what do we got next?
So factoring that in as some of the things that we've talked about, I guess you would need to kind of review what we have to decide what kind of coverage fits you best.
Absolutely. And that's where, again, Cheryl would come in, myself would come in, Devan would set the appointments up. But looking at what you have, a lot of people do not even know. They think of, and we're going to get into this after the break. I can't believe it's already break time, but we're going to get into after the break. What happens? How is it paid out? What is the cost factor? What is the reason for? 6:15, folks, we'll be right back after a quick break. My gosh, it's going so fast. Thanks for being with us. Stay tuned. We look forward to seeing you right after the commercial break. We'll be right back.
Senior Living Today, brought to you by these fine sponsors: Wires Inc., First Class Realty, Triangle East, and Ward Specialty Pharmacy.
And folks, next week, hopefully, we're going to have the new commercial that's going to be airing and coming out, and they've done a great job here at WHIG. They always do, let alone with what they do, our sponsors for Senior Living Today, and the seniors that are in these communities that we do what? That we come out and talk to 3 times a month, every Tuesday, and we so look forward to serving you, our senior population. Well, let's get back to it, since we don't have much time. What was the next one?
The next question we had is, how common is life insurance? Who all has it? Typically an average.
Devan, that's a great question. Statistics normally show that 54% of Americans, and I'm only talking about our country, and it is a great country, yes it is, 54% have some form of life insurance. Now that could be a final expense, as we talked earlier, could be a whole life. Now whole life has many subtopics under it. Whether it is, let me look here, universal life, universal, whole life, variable annuities, variable life insurance, all will fall under the classification of what we're talking about and what you'd want to talk about to Mr. Braswell. So there's many variations, but to know that, I think, Devan, that half of our population, does that not say there's a whole nother half out there that could at least take a look at some form of life insurance? Again, we say, why is the need? You know, a lot of this has been repetitive, and we have repeated ourselves here quite a bit on some of the answers and questions that have come in. But folks, we're married to beautiful families, children. We do not want to be a burden, whether it be final expense, whether it be financial planning, taking care of the tax end of it, the tax ramifications, all of these type policies. There is a place that you can sit down at the table, break down what it is you currently have, and find out what you currently may need. And that's the beauty of doing a review. And I hope
Definitely.
that answered kind of that question. Devan, anything you want to add to it?
Well, we've had a couple people call in about the 10 times rule.
Okay.
We talk about that quite often in our office. What is your best explanation for that?
You know, the 10-time rule a lot of times could apply to, and that's just 10 with the letter X behind it, 10 times. Folks, when we started our families, and we brought this up earlier, you look at your income. And David, yours and Jeremy's. Dink, double income, no kids. You look at that income, an annual salary, and multiply it by 10. So let's say, I don't know, Devan, I'm going to pick on you now. Let's say there's $50,000 in income, and we say 10 times that. What would that number be, Miss Devan?
About $500,000, 500,000.
Okay, correct. So if it's $500,000, that's telling you a good place to throw the dart and get a starting point of $500,000 to start out covering your family. Takes care of what? The mortgage. We're not interested so much in the car payments and things. We're looking at the big things. Funeral expenses. Things that would be, here I go again, but it's factual. Burdens to our family members who are left behind. Hence the reason, life insurance. No, if I'm not the beneficiary, it's not paid on me. It's paid to the beneficiaries, the family members who are left behind. And that is the sole reason that you look at having something that says, I go back to it, Dave Ramsey, don't run the risk of being underprotected. And that's for each and every one of you. Gosh, we're already at 6:22. I can take one more, and then we're going to talk about what's coming, what's not. But I am going to encourage you right now. Devan, I'm going to hit you up one more time for this. What's the telephone number to Statewide?
It's 252-316-8166, and it's right at the bottom of your screen too if you want to read it off and write it down.
Absolutely. And the reason for that, yes, it sounds like that Cheryl and I and Devan kind of push some of these things. But Devan, after the fact, when something does unexpected happen, it's hard then. Your mind is on so many other things, so many things that we hate that we must deal with, but to know that your situation is protected by a simple interview, a simple review of what you currently have at no cost to you, to me that is valuable, very valuable.
Well, and two, we always say that we do the nitty-gritty so you don't have to. So we do all the research. We pull all the different kinds, the different options, so that when you come in for your meeting and you say, okay, this is what I have, we have the best options that we can present you with, because every client's different.
Truly.
Every client, every situation, every family, every setup is different. And so what we offer one might not work for another. And so that's why we do all the research, so that you don't have to. You can come in and we can say, okay, we see what you have. These are probably going to be your best options. And we'll present you with a couple different ones so that you can see. We're not making the decision for you. We're just wanting to make sure you have the best education for it to make the best educated decision.
And remember, you don't make a decision right then.
No.
I watched Mr. Brazel do one last week. He sat down, the gentleman came back in and made this. If I'd have known this a year ago, I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in now. Being knowledgeable of this situation, that's one of the very reasons that we were asked at Statewide to be one of the main sponsors with our sponsors to do what? To be with our seniors. Senior living today goes nothing but to the heart of our senior population. I know we look out, we have a bunch of young folks that do watch us, and we love it. But the idea of our senior population is very, very humbling to Statewide. And what you do, and when you come into that office, if you haven't come into the office, you're missing a treat. There's no charge to anything that we do. We very rarely here on Senior Living Today talk about Statewide. It's back in the corner. But folks, what we do is a plate full. If it's insurable, we take care of it. Whether it's the Medicare that you've heard the comedians, oh my gosh, Devan, the comedians, the quarterbacks that have tried to sell you something. It's not like that at Statewide. Bring in your question, receive an answer, walk out the door, then if you decide to come back and do business, that's why you tune in to Senior Living right here. And that's why tonight we're talking a little bit about Statewide Insurance Group. It is a great team, and it's only because you, Senior Living Today, and the seniors in our great 17, and it's actually growing, the counties that we're actually broadcasting to, are talking. And we thank you for that. Humbly, we thank you for that. And we thank you for your confidence for Mr. Brazel, myself, Devan, and the rest of the team. Devan, we're getting ready to close out. Do we have anything that's coming up in the future? In fact, what are we doing next week? Blah, blah, okay. My time to be quiet.
I'm excited about it. So next week we're going to do a little preview. We'll have Cheryl back, and Joey will actually be interviewing him about IRAs. And just as like we're touching on this tonight, there's just too much information to give you everything. And next week we'll just be doing a little preview, because at the end of the month we're going to have an educational event here at the building here at Wesleyan College, the Technology Center. In one of the rooms here, we're going to have an event, and we're going to have a special guest, and we're going to dive even more into IRAs.
Now, are they invited to that?
Yes. Yes, you're invited. Your friends are invited. We would love to have whoever come out. We are also going to have a phone. You can call our phone at the business, and we will put you down, reserve your seat. But if you forget to do it, please still come. We would love to have you.
Now, will it be on social media and on areas?
Yes.
Because
So
I'm amazed at the senior population, how intuitive they are with computers and social media. Yes, I am.
Yes, so it will be on our social media, which is on Instagram, Facebook. We put stories out about it as well, so all the information will be there, as well as you can call the office. We're going to be sending out some emails to different folks, so hopefully you get the information that way too. But like this is for all age groups, we're trying to serve as many people as we can. And so we really hope to see you. You can come with just yourself, or you can bring your whole family. But come see us. We're having an event. That way you get to meet the team in person. We'll be setting appointments up on site. So we'll be happy to serve you.
Folks, let me just throw something out there. You know how just relaxed we are here at Senior Living today. Did she not do a great job getting out here under the lights on top of a camera and just doing it? It can be nerve-wracking, and you have done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
My gosh, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
Cheryl, we send a blessing to you, brother. Hope you feel good. Look forward to having you back next week. We thank all of you at Senior Living for taking a look at what we do here. I'm going to close with this last little remark. Folks, we couldn't do this without you. Picking up that phone or just stopping by like so many of you do. We saw you on TV and we've got a question. Come into the office. You don't have to just come into the office and buy something. We're not looking for that. We love the friendship. Remember the last thing that we talked about last week? Local. Buying local. Find a great church. Support your neighborhood. Be active. Be proactive. Be a senior. We are so proud of you, and Senior Living today supports you. If there's a topic that you want us to talk about, stop by the office, see Mr. Braswell. Better yet, introduce yourself to Devan. You get to meet her right here. Folks, we thank you. Have a blessed evening. Godspeed. We'll see you next Tuesday for Senior Living Today. Good night.
Senior Living Today, brought to you by these fine sponsors: Wires Inc., First Class Realty, Triangle East, and Ward Specialty Pharmacy.